Ugh. Mega Man, are you okay? Oh no, he's been affected by the virus. Dr. Light, the medicine making machine is gone. What should we do? Greetings, people of the world. I hope you're enjoying the efforts of the little robo-antivirus. If there are any robots who want the cure, all you have to do is come work for me. And don't think Mega Man is going to save you like he usually does. He's come down with a nice little cure of Robo-Enzo himself, and now I should able to see the true genius of the actual work. The world is mine. Ha 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 ha. Achoo! I should have known. This was Dr. Wily's doing all along. I have to stop. Ugh. No, you're in no condition to do anything. Roll? Mega Man, use this. I thought you took your medicine already. I was saving it in case a really sick robot was brought in. But Roll, you need it. If I use it, I still can't stop Wily. But if you take it, you can stop him. Thank you, Roll. Sit tight, I'll stop Dr. Wily. And bring back enough medicine for everyone. We're all counting on you, Mega Man. Good luck. Be careful out there. So yeah, it turns out Dr. Wily was behind all this time, so that should be expected from any other Mega Man games out there. Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I am Mega Man here once again, and I'm from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to some more of the forms of Mega Man Marathon selection of games. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Mega Man 10 for the Xbox Live Arcade, PlayStation Network, and Nintendo WiiWare, even though it's no longer going to be available on the WiiWare right about now. And especially notable for PC Steam versions. So, last time we actually did manage to tackle through all 8 Robot Masters, as you expected from any other Mega Man games at this point. And now we're going to be tackling through the Dr. Wily's castle, and jeez, Dr. Wily managed to able to get himself his huge castle out of it this time. I mean, this place looks absolute huge. Well, huge in a small way, but ultimately though, it's pretty much exactly as the exact same size as how it does in the previous castles, because even then, well, there's not much else you can tell about the forms of this particular Dr. Wily set of stages, but even then though, once again, we're going to be doing some platforming segments every once in a while, especially noticeable with boss fights, and pretty much everything's all accounted for with the forms of in Mega Man series at this point in time. Then we might actually come towards the boss fights every once in a while. So speaking of such, here's the main first boss in the forms of the Dr. Wily's Castle number 10. And now we have to come across into this particular boss like 3 times. Like these are known as the weapons archive, which even then, this means is the fact that this is inspired by the forms of every single Robot Masters. Well, not all of them, mind you, but some of these famous Robot Masters ever since in the Mega Man's past. Like for instance, the first set actually brings us to Electman from Mega Man 1, Woodman from Mega Man 2, and Gemini Man from Mega Man 3. And eventually when we get to the middle portion of the stage, even excluding towards the end, we might actually gonna come across into those familiar Robot Masters from Mega Man 4 and 5 and 6 for the middle section. And at the very end of the level, we actually come towards the forms of the Robot Masters from Mega Man 7, Mega Man 8, and finally Mega Man 9. Whilst the forms of Mega Man and Bass, on the other hand, though, does not count at all. Because usually some people think that Mega Man and Bass was actually just a spin-off more than the main series, which is very understandable because even then though, between both Astro Man and Tango Man managed to make it their own return, well they managed to get their 2 appearances in the forms of the Mega Man series, both Mega Man 8 and especially Mega Man and Bass, so that makes it very understandable for the most part though, so... Yeah, today was actually forms of the 30th of August in 2018, so we've only got 2 more days left until we come towards the forms of September. And in addition to that, though, this might actually be the grand finale of the forms of the Mega Man Marathon selection of games, even though we still got the epilogue to deal with any forms of the ending portion of the particular series of games, Let's Plays, and all that stuff. But even then, we still only got a few things to go through, so even then, yeah. Of course, we come towards Ringman from Mega Man 4 here. Honestly, I found Ringman to be quite tricky sometimes because of all that ring projectiles you need to dodge through, which, you know, I have the same issue by the forms of the original Mega Man 4 battle. And also, we got ourselves Flame Man from Mega Man 6. It's very easy to able to dodge though, we'll admit though right away. And finally, we got ourselves the Napalm Man from Mega Man 5. So, honestly, I found Napalm Man was actually the easiest of the bunch because all he does, he just jumps all over the place and he just spawns in those little Napalm bombs all over it. So even then, very easy to dodge though, and even then, that should be expected from any other points worth noting for anyway. So anyways, let's get rid of these whole kinds of enemies right there, most notably these little sensor robots there. And I've only got a little bit of health left though, that's the only thing I'm worried about. Well, good thing I've got the checkpoint right there just because of the auto-saving system by the forms of the Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 series. So even then, that's to be expected also, and yeah, that's what I can say about this for this point here. And that's what I get for able to use in a save state. Honestly, these spiders are probably the most annoying enemies in this game, I will admit though right away, because they never stay still for the most part though. Could imagine if I was trying to able to play this mode on hard mode, or even in this case, if I was trying to able to complete the game for the second time and just trying to complete hard mode, and then I would able to actually go ahead and die a lot, especially noticeable with that stupid spider enemy, which even then that always attempts to get in my nerves. So... anyways though, before we get into this however though, we'll actually discuss upon with the forms of what some of these DLC contents do you get with Mega Man 10. Obviously I've already mentioned about this before, you get yourselves a 3rd playable character in the game by the forms of Bass ever since Mega Man and Bass. Whereas he behaves exactly like in the forms of how it does in Mega Man and Bass for the Super Famicom / Super Nintendo, or even for the Game Boy Advance as a result too, that he can able to actually shoot in multiple directions, he can able to actually use the also loving triple boosting from Mega Man and Bass, and especially noticeable by the forms of a dash jumping. No double jump though, which kinda makes me sad and kinda a little bit unfair at points. Most notably because of how the fact that when we as soon as I was about to be able to play as those 2 characters on my own time, both Proto Man and the forms of Bass, that I can able to actually just experience of the forms of those 2 characters. Well, I might as well able to actually go ahead and say no. Now I might as well able to actually do 3 different difficulty runs on my own time. Or in this case, I'm playing normal mode right about now as Mega Man. But in the forms of Proto Man, I might as well do easy mode for him. And especially noticeable with the forms of hard mode for Bass, because, well, honestly I think Bass is actually a very interesting character to play as. Well, aside from the forms of the missing double jump ability, which even I know, yeah. And also by the forms, if you want to able to get yourselves a little bit bastardizing by the forms of easy difficulty, that there's going to be a crap ton of Saishi items. I mean, you know the rest. So here we go with the final 3 of the forms of those, weapon archives, and that will have to be the forms of one of those Robot Masters from Mega Man 9 by the forms of Tornado Man, one of the Robot Masters from Mega Man 8, Frost Man, and especially noticeable for Mega Man 7, that I'm sure we can able to actually come towards that and join after dealing with the forms of Multitude of Faces with the forms of Frost Man basically. So even then yeah, that's what I can really say about this. There we go. So we got ourselves Slash Man from Mega Man 7. Honestly, I found Slash Man to be a lot more difficult than any other Robot Master I Chiefs and stuff like that. Most notably because he's going way too fast at one point or another, which I found that timing aspect can get pretty difficult at times, especially noticeable that his slashing range is so ridiculous. But even then though, that's as far as I can say about this, and I've basically run out of my triple blade right about now, but that's okay though, because we've recently finished up with Dr. Wily Stage 1. So yeah, it's not too long, or not too complicated either, it's just how the fact of the matter is though, there's quite a lot of pathways you can actually just manage to take through, especially noticeable, it depends on what characters you select. Like, if you play as Proto Man, I highly suggest you're able to actually detonate the bomb, they're able to actually just to break one of those breakable blocks with the forms of those little, you know, these breakable blocks and stuff. And that's what I can really think about. So here we go, on to Wily Stage 2. Easily one of the hardest levels in the entirety of Mega Man 10, at least in my opinion though anyway. Because, you know, with one of those things, how the fact that ever since enjoying the likes of in Junkman stage from Mega Man 4, that's when you know there's one of those smash compactors, we need to able to actually just to worry about them. Well, until we get to the actual middle point of the level, especially noticeable when we get to towards the end of the level, you guys should know what I'm talking about, because even then, yeah, for the most part though, we just need to able to dodge a lot of those enemies, especially with those conveyor belts we need to work on with. And here, there's an energy tank right down there, but in order to actually get to it, we need to able to use the commando bomb here, and then we can able to designate the body forms of that particular breakable, you know, special blocks. So, yeah, not that bad though. One thing I should probably point things out right away is that you can actually aim the actual forms of the commando bomb, by the way. You can either just manage to press the directional pad up until you're able to actually just classify it. You're able to actually just go ahead and aim your shots well enough with the forms of the commando bomb, which I always do like. So, anyways, let's go ahead and refill ourselves the forms of, let's go ahead and refill, you know, one of those triple blades right from the start. And right from the get-go, that much like in new forms of Sailor Man stage, is the fact that we're actually coming towards these two flammable birds returning. And yes, they behave exactly like how it does in Sailor Man stage. I almost said Sailor for some reason, because I keep on thinking of boats for some reason. But I digress, and it still behaves the exact same pattern as before, but I guess this time around though, that you can able to actually just, well, I'm pretty sure it behaves exactly the same thing as of how it does it when we actually, first time we actually fight against with those two duos. Oh yes, this part I was talking about. These smash compactors are, in my opinion, easily very unpredictable to able to see them, activated, unlike in the forms of how it does it in Mega Man 4 Incarnation, because I feel like these smash compactors in Mega Man 4 are very easy to get used to, but for some reason I just had a hard time with the forms of these smash compactor obstacles in Mega Man 10 for some reason, because I know they're in a pattern, and I'm sure enough I can able to actually deal with this no problem. But it's not so bad in the forms of the first phase, but the second phase on the other hand though, when we actually get to the very end of the game, or in this case when we get to the very end of the level, in fact I might as well able to use my mystery tank right here. So even then, not only does it refill my weapon energy, but also my health extensions as well. And because I'm doing this, because, well, there's going to be a mystery tank in this level, much like in the forms of how it does in Wily Stage 3 in Mega Man 9. In fact, it's actually way easier to get this time around though, instead of like just able to actually force you to do with the forms of that automatic elevator sequence, unlike in the forms of in Mega Man 9, that it's very difficult to be able to obtain that actually. And especially noticeable in the Crystal Man stage by the forms of in Mega Man 5, where it's very easy to get thanks to Rush Coil and all that stuff. But I think one of the hardest mystery tanks to obtain from, in comparison by the forms of any other Mega Man games, I think is one of the hardest ones is definitely by the forms of Mega Man 9's Wily Stage 3, because you're gonna have to, well, when it comes to mystery tanks to obtain from, because even then, honestly, I found Mega Man 5 is very easy to obtain, and especially noticeable for Mega Man 10, well, at least one of them anyway. I believe there's also another mystery tank, which is at the very end of the game actually, which even then, I think the reason why these games are getting pretty easy these days, well, with the forms of the absence of the forms of the sliding and the charge shot, which even then though, that's big only because of how the fact that these collectible items are very gladiously generous about you sometimes, which even then I can honestly appreciate it with that. So, Anyways though, and to be fair, I've managed able to actually bypass this particular Smash Compactor sequences for about no troubles whatsoever, which even then, oh, believe me, it just took me a lot of tries whenever first time I played this level, so... But again, it's actually the first time I'm playing for the games for myself, so... But normally I just got the PlayStation 3 version of the game, so even then, no, that makes it very obvious there. So, here we go, folks, onto the forms of this next boss fight right there, in the forms of the Dr. Wily Capsule levels. This is the forms of the Crab Puncher. And his weakness too, as far as this particular boss is concerned, if I have to look it up quickly, his weakness is the forms of Commando Bomb and Thunder Wall. But since I rarely use those two power-ups admittedly, I know I do know there's an easy way we can able to do with this boss fight, to actually do with the Triple Blade, but it probably not so much more effective anyway though. But at the same thoughts, I might as well able to just go ahead and use one of my energy tanks. So even then though, that you know, since I've got plenty of those energy tanks at the moment, so even then though, this makes the journey all the way to the very end of the game should be a little bit more comfortable, I will admit though right away. Until Stage 3 happens, because even then, we'll get to that as soon as we're able to actually get to Stage 3 of the forms of Dr. Wily's Castle number 10. So, yeah, these bubbles can get annoying to dodge though, especially noticeable. They're always trying to spread out, and especially noticeable with this stupid little punching crab, or in this case, this little particular punching claw, if anything like that. Which even then, though, it does rarely occasions, when I keep on shooting his actual eye. Although, by the way, you do need to be able to destroy both of his eyes, by the way, in case if you want to be very curious about this. And, you can also destroy one of your, claws as well, but, it's just so hard to be able to actually just try to hit it sometimes. But there we go. We actually did manage to defeat the actual, Crab Puncher with a little bit of health left, so, very successful at the end. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for Dr. Wily Stage 2, and now we're moving on to Dr. Wily Stage 3, somewhat of the second hardest level in the forms of the classic Mega Man series, I feel like. Well, in terms of the actual Dr. Wily's castles themselves, at least in this case, in this game anyway, though. Sorry for a little bit of a tangent right there, so I do apologize for that. So, for the most part though, this level's not too bad, at least as far as I've noticed something like this, unlike in the forms of the Smash Compactor sections, in the forms of in Dr. Wily Stage 2, but even then though, the main gimmick about this level though, if we get to the next door anyway though, and first of all, we need to be able to actually refill ourselves the forms of the Triple Blade, in case if we need some for later on. Here's the forms of the elevator sequences, which almost exactly feels a bit similar to ones in the forms of Mega Man 9, but except this time around though, you're not be forced to able to actually go in a weird elevator gravity. Instead, we can able to actually press one of those two switches so that you can shift the actual giant platform into the other side to another. It's kind of like in the forms of Swordman stage in that particular stage, that you're gonna have to step onto the forms of one of those little two buttons you need to press, depends on what direction you'll be going, and you could able to actually potentially try to able to move along to the actual next section throughout. So it's kind of like that, except it's on the forms of the 8-bit setting, and especially noticeable is at the very end of the game. So, and also we got this particular platforming obstacle right there, ever since in Blade Man stage from you know, ever since in this particular game, Mega Man 10. So yeah, there's not much else I can really say about this other than that. So even then though, that, well, the boss fights, well, as far as the actual level itself, it's relatively the exact same size of how it does in any other Wily's castles, which even then, I could appreciate about this kind of stuff, because I could have expected how these levels can go a little bit more longer than that, but, I don't know how long these levels are going to be like in the forms of in Mega Man 11, but even then though, we'll actually, sorry for the spoilers, but by the way, because even then though, that's, well, I have not known about that yet until when the actual game came out, so I'm probably not gonna spoil it for myself though, so, even for a lot of you out there, so, do apologize for that. And, before we continue on, there's actually an extra life there where I might as well able to grab, in case if there's gonna be like, actually I will admit though right away, is the fact that, recently we don't have any of those game overs so far, unlike any forms of in Mega Man 1, and especially noticeable for Mega Man 2, well at least in off-screen, for Sonic anyway, and well, in the forms of Mega Man and Bass, Mega Man's playthrough of Mega Man and Bass, that because of how the fact that that game does not work well enough for Mega Man, but at least as far as I think it is to me though. Especially notable, it doesn't help with the forms of the Game Boy Advance version. It actually reduces the forms of the screen crunch system, but that's besides the point right there. So anyways though, once we get all the way up to the top, here's one of the more annoying sections, I will admit though right away, and that's this part right there. You know what the forms of these spikes, all these instant death spikes, they are literally all over the place with this particular section. And to make matters even worse is the fact that with this particular enemy at the top of the ceiling, but it forms of these little, I can't remember what the names are, I do apologize for that point folks. But they always try to able to actually distract you, but it forms of this little stupid little purple little poisonous type of obstacle, or the object rather. And to make matters worse is that if you manage to get that purple thing stuck into you, you'll be slipped all over the place. And to make matters worse, if you slip off the platform with no invincibility frames whatsoever, then you die instantly with the forms of these pit of spikes, which is very unfair if you ask me. And to make matters worse than that is the fact that if you got a checkpoint from earlier ago, then you have to redo the entire portion of it again, including for the likes of the actual tilting platform or the seesaw type of platform section again, and even especially noticeable by the forms of the elevator sequence again, and that's a busy work, I'm gonna tell you right about now. So anyways though, we reached at the very end at least, so let's go ahead and get this thing going by the forms of the third boss in the forms of the Dr. Wily Castle levels, and in fact, here it is right here. I believe this room almost inspires by the forms of one of those Mega Man 2 boss fights, except, well, doesn't look very familiar to you, kind of like how it does in the forms of Yellow Devil Mark II, and the Green Devil from Mega Man 8, and especially noticeable with the Twin Devils from Mega Man 9, and this time around, we actually introduce into ourselves the Block Devil, and his weakness is the forms of the Rebound Strike, which if you manage to aim your shots well enough, then you would able to actually deal a crap ton of damage. At least depends on the forms of your aiming skills and stuff like that. So yeah, with the Rebound Striker, it definitely is a welcoming addition to this fight. And as you can see, that I've managed to able to use one of my weapon energy tanks. Then this allows me to able to actually fill up only one of those abilities fully up. So even then though, that makes it a little bit more very handy though. I did try to do this boss fight with the forms of the Triple Blade, but it can be very difficult if you want to able to aim this thing at the bottom portion of it, because there are occasional moments where he decided to able to hide all the way down, as you can see right there, and it's very hard to do that with the forms of my Triple Blade, as you can see right there, because even though again, it's actually the first time I'm actually going to be playing this game, so even then though, don't expect me to able to actually doing a lot of crappy skills for that department right there, so I do apologize for this little stimulation parts will go. And I think it's about time for me to able to use another one of my energy tanks at the moment, so I've got 4 of them left. So, but that's fine though, because even though until we get to the next level by the forms of Dr. Wily Stage 4, then we can able to actually just go ahead and get ourselves the forms of the next energy tanks. So even then, I'm hoping there's going to be one in there somewhere. Oh, how dare you pop out of nowhere for me? And boom, he's down. Although sometimes the actual patterns itself is pretty much impossible to do so, just like it informs of the Yellow Devil from Mega Man 1. Although, it might be a little bit slower compared to how it does in Mega Man 1's Yellow Devil, and especially noticeable, it's like the exact same speed of how it does it in Twin Devil from Mega Man 9, but, except we're going to be in the inside portion of the actual arena itself. So, here we go folks, onto the forms of Dr. Wily Stage 4. As you may expect it from any other Mega Man game, we got ourselves the weapon energies to fill up with. And in addition to that though, if we manage to able to continuously going up at the actual level, and before I do anything, I need to able to fulfill ourselves the forms of the restocking of those Rebound Strikers, and also the Triple Blades and stuff like that. I'm hoping I got that enough of those weapon energy by the forms of the Commando Bomb, I was hoping for anyway. But, I'm most well able to be okay without doing that. So, with that being said, let's go over here to able to actually just dodge a lot of those fireballs, as you can see there. In addition to those enemies here and there, side by side. And, because the reason why I'm going to the right instead of on the left, just because if we go to the right, as you can see here, we got ourselves the energy tank I might as well grab. So even then, before I do that, I must be able to get my space until I'm able to actually hopefully try to get it. And before I do that, I need to get rid of those enemies quickly. And hopefully I might as well get ourselves a little bit of a breathing room here. And boom, there's the energy tank. So I deserve that knockback, and I deserve 2 knockbacks. Thank you for that. And oh my god, what's going on with me today? Oh jeez. Sometimes this section can get annoying at times, even if you get a knockback especially, which to make matters even worse, then you have to redo the entire climbing the ladder slog all over again, which it's not too much of a slog to go through. In fact, this section could go rather really quick. And in fact, the matter is though, we reached at the very end already. I could have appreciated if I was able to go ahead and restock my commando bomb weapon from that weapon energy, but I think Rush Coil might be the nerve-wracking to deal with right there, because yeah, I've accidentally just managed to obtain that, so whoops. So anyways though, much like in any other Mega Man game, that as you expected, we got ourselves a boss rush to deal with. So let's get this thing started. By the forms of, first of all, we're going to be taking on the Silent Man. So again, his weak 2 is the forms of the Water Shield. And things will be able to turn out just well enough. And yeah, as usual, just get closer towards him, and that's all you have to do. Boom, he's down. Alright, self-explanatory there, and let's go ahead and move on to the next Robot Master, which we have, I'm assuming this might be Blade Man, because yes, that's all usually how it goes. And unfortunately though, because of my lack of the forms of the Commando Bomb weapon, it's almost gone a little bit more limited at this point. But I can able to actually just hopefully try to do a good amount of damage thanks to the forms of these explosion effects. Which I will say though is that the explosion effects might be the bestest way to able to deal with this boss, because even then, if you manage to aim this commando bomb with only just a little bit of a straight shot towards him, then it doesn't deal that much damage though, I don't think. But even then, that's just how I think it is. So next of all we have is Sheep Man, which last time we've already dealt with him is by the forms of the Mega Buster, although I will deal with him with the Mega Buster for the first phase, or the first part, but until when his health is almost completely down, then we can now finally experience what his weaknesses is all about, which his weakness, it might actually be, if I actually read this up real quickly, his weakness is the forms of, well, the Rebound Striker. So even then though, that, before I use that, however, though, I might as well able to actually keep on using the Mega Buster, even though, as you can see, I've managed to able to use my energy tanks right about now, because I refuse to die on this part, because even then though, if I died, then I have to redo the entire boss fight all over again. And just like in the forms of how it does in any other Mega Man game, and unlike Mega Man 8, if you die, your weapons does not regenerate it at all. So even then, you have to purposely try to able to actually deal with this with a single attempt or two. So there we go. That concludes Sheep Man. And well, we've already got 5 more Robot Masters rematch left. So even then, what's up next? Of course, we got ourselves Commando Man. So even then, again, he's weak to is the forms of. Oh, what's he weak to again? I wonder. Oh, jeez, it's been a long while. I'm pretty sure it's the wheel cutter. Yeah, it's the wheel cutter. And that way we can able to deal the insane amount of damage towards the Commando Man. So, and boom, he's down completely. Honestly, I found Commando Man, as far as the actual boss fight goes, is actually rather easier compared to the actual level itself, in my opinion. Just because of how the fact that, well, I can get used to with his pattern. So anyways though, next up we have his Pump Man here. Again, his weak 2 is the forms of Thunder Wall. So even then, if you manage to aim this thing at the right point, then you would able to deal the insane amount of damage with the forms of that particular stuff like this. So even then though, that everything else should be good to go for this point. And especially noticeable he does that, which is super helpful. And boom, he's down for good. And conveniently enough, we're actually on a are we in the halfway point? Or I'm pretty sure we're already at the halfway point already. Well, we've already done 5 of those rematch against with those Robot Masters already. So next up we have is the Nitro Man here. So again, we'll go ahead and equip ourselves the Chill Spike, because, you know, tires can easily be popped out thanks to the forms of these little spikes. So I will admit though, is the fact that when you're trying to temporarily freeze him with the forms of the Chill Spike, doesn't exactly do that much effective, I will admit though right away, but it does that pretty good amount of damage though, I gotta give that credits due. But the actual good damage of the forms of the Chill Spike with the forms of Nitro Man is definitely the forms of the spikes themselves, because even then, that, you know, tires can easily be blow up with the forms of their approach to something a little bit more prickly or spark. Or in this case, shot. I can't really pronounce that very well, folks. I do apologize for that. So anyways, folks, next up we have is the forms of Chill Man. Honestly, I found the hardest robot master in the game will probably have to be, let's just say Blade Man, because he's way too fast. And also Chill Man because of slippery ice physics, and also he's way too unpredictable to dodge sometimes, even when he keep on, like, freezing me all this time. So, oh crap. Oh, come on. Okay, now it's about time for me to use one of my energy tanks, so... Whew, that was really too close there, but hey, at least I can able to actually just bite that in the slightest, so... And... boom! There we go. Alright, so now we've got ourselves one more Robot Master rematch to deal with right there, and as usual, his weakness is the forms of the Triple Blade, and can you guess which this is? Well, as you may have guessed it's Strike Man himself, so bring it on, Strike Man! In fact, is that he can be taken down very easily though, unlike any forms of the actual level itself, so boom, there we go. And once you defeat all 8 of those Robot Masters as far as rematch goes, then we'll have a one-on-one fight against with Dr. Wily himself, and oh, he's actually got a little bit more of a pirate motif this time. And basically, here we go with the forms of the actual Wily machine number 10. So even though know that he does have 2 different faces, like the first face is weak to is the forms of Silo Blaze, and the second face, we'll explain more on the second face until we're able to actually keep on hitting the actual first form. In fact, it can be rather easy to take him down, unlike any forms of the most annoying, you know, Wily Machine number 9 sometimes, because you have to deal with these annoying bouncy balls, or the bouncy explosion balls, to be able to actually reflect back at him, which even now, that can get pretty difficult at times. At least thankfully though, in the forms of Mega Man 10, I can appreciate it we're going onto the forms of jumping over missiles and all that stuff, or even just jump onto the missiles as far as that is a result too. So anyways though, here's the forms of the second form, and his weak to is the forms of the water shield, which, well, I'm probably not going to do that right about now, but I'm also able to do that occasionally, because as you can see, that he constantly hovering in the entirety of the air, and sometimes occasionally he managed to able to trap me inside in the forms of these little electrical barriers and such. And speaking of which, I'm almost gonna die right there, but even then I'm also able to hopefully try to able to get as good enough hits on him. Or in this case, in fact, I'm also able to use my energy tanks right about now, so even then though, at the moment I've only got about 1 more energy tank left, so even then though, that, don't worry though, especially when we actually get to the very end of the game, though you can definitely see why until we get to the very end, that, hopefully though, the actual items will be very generous with us, even with the forms of, although there's actually a mystery tank I could able to potentially use, but, I'm also able to up for the challenge to able to actually take him down with the forms of the Mega Buster, because as you can see, I've pretty much bankrupted with the forms of, you know, the water shield, basically, so I'm also able to do this with the Mega Buster itself, so... But that's okay though, because I'm up to the challenge for the task, so even then though, that, this particular attack almost reminds me of the forms of, one of those, attacks that Robotnik actually does that in the forms of in Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Sacred Master System, that, one of those electrical, fences, as you can see right there, they're always trying to block your proceedings. So that's very interesting altogether, and this might be my final energy tank right about now, at least for now anyway. And we can hopefully we can able to finish him off in during time. In fact, this boss fight might actually be a lot easier than the likes of how it does in Mega Man 9's Wily Machine number 9, at least to me though anyway. So boom! Wily Machine number 10 is fully been taken down, and as soon as you think the game was over, well, turns out we've only got 1 more level to deal with. In this case, the true final level in the forms of in Mega Man 10. And what makes this super awesome, just listen to this music as soon as that little flashing imagery is about to be finished. Look at that! We're going all the way up into the forms of the long elevator sequences, and guess what? We ended up in the forms in outer space! Jeez, that was very funny actually. I'm gonna give credits too, but he forms just trying to make it a little bit more weird at the same time. So here we go with the absolute final level in the forms of in Mega Man 10, and as you can see, the returning obstacles ever since in Mega Man and Base, we got ourselves these returning little mini drill stuff that comes out from the ground. And this time around though, well, they can now easily show up thanks to the forms. You can clearly see the actual drill effects on screen this time. So even then though, yeah. And also that ever since Gendrina likes it in Starman's stage from Mega Man 5, that we're actually going to be doing with space physics. So even then though, everything is all floating all together. So that makes it very obvious there. So in fact, there aren't any enemies around here. So instead, it's just obviously just these little mini drill obstacles, and that's about it. So in fact, we've only got 9 lives so far, which is very good considering how the fact that we haven't got maxed out as many lives ever since in Mega Man 3, because of how the fact that in Mega Man 3's Wily's Castle might be one of the easiest I'm sorry, I can't speak today for this point, folks. I do apologize for that. Easily one of the easiest Wily castles in any other Mega Man game for Mega Man 3 anyway. So, as soon as we approach towards the end, not only does it give us the forms of the final energy tank, which is very grateful, but also by the forms of the mystery tank as well. So, and because everything else is in upside down, this means every single item can get a sense of confusion for the sake of it sometimes. But even then though, let's go ahead and get those two right for a second. So let's go ahead and grab the energy tank, and if we get the leaps of faith going, there we go, so that's a mystery tank. So onwards to the true, absolutely definition of the true final battle in the forms of in Mega Man 10, at least for now anyway, until Mega Man 11 comes out. Here we go with, as you expected from any other Mega Man game, we got ourselves one of those, another one of these capsule thingies, and turns out this might actually be one of the easiest final battles in any other Mega Man games in the series, most notably because of how the fact that, well, first of all, we're actually going to be exploring in outer space, and plus we're actually on the space physics at times, and his weakness is the forms of the chill spike, and if you manage to aim your shots well enough, then you would able to actually just manage to deal enough damage on him. And also you need to be keeping an eye on what the real Wily is, because why bother with the actual grey one and the forms of the actual, it's so obviously not Wily. But even then though, yeah, it's not that much of a problem. And we've managed to defeat Dr. Wily for the 11th time in a row, at least in the forms of the actual series of it so far. And let's watch the ending of Mega Man 10. I've got you now. Dr. Wily? You've got a fever. Did you catch the Roboranza too? I'm a human, not a robot. I gotta get you to the hospital. A few days later. Of course, would you but know it, it actually got away for all this time. Oh no, Dr. Wily's gone missing. Oh, what's this? Of course, he just left out by the forms of all kinds of medicine, all the forms of all over the bed, and yeah, that's all there is to know. So, and yeah, as you can see, I've got my trophy right there. As you can see on the notification, that's only because I'm playing this on the PlayStation 4 at this point. So, even though that might be the only time in the Mega Man Marathon we're going to be seeing that notification pops up. So even though that's only because, you know, it's actually the first time I actually be playing through Mega Man 10. So, yeah, for the 11th time that Dr. Wily managed to get us defeated and ended up catching a fever. So even then, yeah, that's all there is to say about Mega Man 10 overall. And I think that pretty much wraps things up with every single classic Mega Man games at this point, up until when we get to Mega Man 11 until October, then we can able to actually go back onto playing Mega Man again. Which, even then though, overall Mega Man 10 is a very welcoming addition to the actual classic series returns yet again, at least after 2 years after the events of Mega Man 9. Like, you know, this game came out in 2010 originally, as the forms of Mega Man 9 came out in 2008. So, yeah, as you expected, graphical standpoints, especially noticeable, that still retains on the forms of the 8-bit setting, still looks very impressive even to this day, and the soundtrack is very cool stuff as well. But there's one thing I will admit though right away, is that the level design is all over the place sometimes, even when the difficulty starts to shine at one point or another. And I feel like most of the time I occasionally died in some scenarios, most notably the forms of the the level design itself, especially with this stupid, Smash Compactor, syndrome like this. But even then, aside from that, though, it's a very enjoyable game. But even then, I can definitely see how the fact that a lot of people seem to think this is one of the best games in the series. Well, aside from Mega Man 2, though, might be, you know, its top nostalgia classic. And even then, though, I can't really expect it for this much. So even then, though, yeah, I did have a lot of fun with Mega Man 10. And, I was originally able to actually go for 2 playthroughs of or 3 playthroughs of this game, but much like in the forms of Mega Man 9, we are running out of time for this point, because we close to the very end of August. So even then, though, that we've only got one more video left in the forms of the Mega Man Marathon, and that will have to be the epilogue. In fact, speaking of epilogue, I'm also mentioning about this right about now. We're actually going to be mentioning about this in the forms of how the fact that there's going to be, we're going to be discussing upon 2 remakes games, and even especially noticeable with the forms of the Mega Man and Bass sequel, but only on the forms of the Bandai WonderSwan in Japan only. But we're not going to be able to borrow the actual gameplays from any other YouTubers out there, because, well, that'll just be a little bit more of a policy sake. Unlike in the forms of that stupid Maxi10 YouTube channel, you just keep on stealing all the footages from any other YouTubers, which is very dumb. But I digress though. But yeah, that's what I can say about the forms of Mega Man 10, honestly. It's a very enjoyable game. I did have some issues with it, but the forms of the difficulty can go all over the place, just like in the forms of how it does in Super Mario Bros. 3 at one point. But apart from that, though, it's a very enjoyable experience altogether, and I'm especially looking forward to Mega Man 11 comes out, and I think it's actually a great way we can able to actually go ahead and deal with these Mega Man series before when we get into Mega Man 11, because, you know, after the forms of I managed to finally obtain both Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 4 version, so that I can get myself the experience of Mega Man again. That way, after all that, entering in 2017 at the very end of that year, thankfully the Mega Man 11 announcement has been happening, and I thought to myself, then we might as well be able to do the Mega Man Marathon for the sake of, like, all these 10 games, well, 10 main games, including Mega Man and Bass as well. So if that's the case, then yeah, I think that all comes together. So yeah, this is me, Mega Man, here from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, and I suppose during next time, by the forms of you know, the Mega Man Marathon, is the fact that we're going to be doing a epilogue in the forms of the actual marathon itself, to be able to discuss upon what's for our future plannings by the forms of next month and onwards, and especially noticeable by the forms of mentioning by the forms of 2 remakes games, by the forms of Mega Man The Wily Wars for the Mega Drive / Sega Genesis, and especially noticeable by the forms of Mega Man Powered Up for the PlayStation Portable, a remake of Mega Man 1, and finally, by the forms of the Mega Man and Bass sequel, but only on the Bandai WonderSwan in Japan only, by the forms of Mega Man and Bass Challenger of the Future, as far as it's translated to the English version, whilst I cannot pronounce the Japanese version of the title very well. I do apologize for that. So, things should be very interesting, and alongside with that, we might actually be able to re-upload the forms of the epilogue of the Sonic's Game Gear Marathon. Don't forget about that. Because of that, though, those 2 videos will be uploaded tomorrow at the exact same time, in case if we're about to be able to actually move things up at that point. So this is me, Mega Man, and until then, thanks for watching. Bye!